right now I am reading a book that came out this summer, and it is so good. I wanted to do a whole video based off of this book. And it is A Harlem Wedding by Tiffany Warren. It is so good. It is just everything that I love it. It is got so much American history in it. It has got so much but truth about America, truth about the story. It is so well researched, but it's got just so much humanity too. And I've wanted to do this particular video though for a while, and I've really debated within myself. Black women in American history, historical fiction. I debated not because I didn't want to do it, but because I don't know if I'm the right voice for it as a white woman. And so what I want to start this off by saying is I want to center a Black woman's voice talking about Black women in history. I highly suggest going and finding Black creators, Black YouTubers. And one of my favorites is Kayla Bookish Vibes. I've found so many great historical fiction suggestions from her, and I will link her down below. But I, as an American history teacher, try to make sure that in my classroom we're learning about both Black men and Black women in American history, and try to make sure that I am also reading. And these are some of my favorite that I definitely highlight all of these women in my classroom. We talk about them, we research them, and these are some of my favorite books that I've personally read. And these books have led me to do more research and highlighting them in my classroom. And these books they're books that are so good that I want to highlight them. And I want to just talk about them in this video. So The Harlem Wedding, I am not fully done with it, but I just am so excited about it that I wanted to talk to you all about these books today, and about the books that have just really touched me about the amazing Black women in American history. And so I highly suggest, though, if you're going to read A Harlem Wedding, before you read it, read Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murray, who will continue to be one of my favorite historical fiction authors, because a lot of what is talked about in A Harlem Wedding is Jessie Faust, and she is just discussed so much. She's brought up so much, and it's almost like Tiffany Warren expects you to know about what's going on in A Harlem Rhapsody and about this woman. So A Harlem Wedding is about W.E.B. Du Bois's daughter, and Jessie Faust was his assistant / mistress in his literary magazine, The Crisis. And so Harlem Rhapsody is all about her amazing life and her career, which was for a woman during the Harlem Renaissance. She discovered Langston Hughes and so many other, Countee Cullen, who becomes W.E.B. Du Bois's daughter, Yolanda's husband. And she is what, we think of the writers of the Harlem Renaissance and the poets. She is the one who discovers a lot of that. And, a lot of what W.E.B. Du Bois does, she is the silent person behind that. Her story is amazing, and the things she does is amazing. And this book just really speaks to what she accomplished. And all of these women, America would not be where it is today without these women. And they are just completely silent. History for so long has been completely silent on their accomplishments. And so I highly suggest, if you're going to read A Harlem Wedding, I think you should read A Harlem Rhapsody before you read A Harlem Wedding. Things in this book will make a lot more sense if you've read this book first, but you could read them together. Both of them are so good. Both of these women were deeply impacted by a man who was very accomplished, very powerful, very outspoken, did a lot of good, but also was a man with a lot of flaws. And you get this idea of there is no perfect man, and these women they're still living in a man's world, and the color of their skin still impacts them. And so they're so good. They're so good. Okay, so my next book is Victoria Christopher Murray is one of the co-authors. It's her first book with Marie Benedict and her first historical fiction book. She'd been a romance author before this, and this is The Personal Librarian, talking about a woman in a man's world. This is Bella DeCosta Green, and I always highly suggest, like all of these women, I let my students pick from a list of amazing people for Black History Month and then also for Women's History Month, but I don't have like the common the people that would be picked typically. I take off Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr. because typically they know who these people are. They've researched them before. But I always put on Bella DeCosta Green and Jessie Faust and the women that we're talking about today as options because I want them to know about what I call the unsung heroes. And I almost always have somebody pick Bella DeCosta Green and they come and they're like, this woman was amazing. She was in the Gilded Age and she worked for J.P. Morgan as his personal librarian for his collection of collectible books. It's so much more than that. And you can still go and see the collection that she was the curator of, the Morgan Museum. And her story is that she passed for white, and it was her father really struggled with that because he was very outspoken of being very proud of his Black heritage. And this story of her as working with JP Morgan in the Gilded Age, in this very white, very opulent, wealthy Gilded Age world, and who she was, and trying to say, who am I in this world? In her story of working for JP Morgan and their relationship and his family trying to figure out who is this woman working for our father, and then the impact she still has on the book and the art world. It just really speaks to what is a woman capable of, what is our legacy. It really spoke to me when I read this book. It still speaks to me, and I love this book for speaking to my students because it always leads to a discussion of what is your legacy going to be. So if you've been around a little bit on my page, you know that I loved this next book, A Pair of Aces, also by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. And Eunice Carter, she was the first female assistant district attorney in New York City. And also the first Black assistant district attorney in New York City, and truly just an amazing woman. Fought not just racial prejudice, gender prejudice, also fought with her husband on what is the role of a wife and of a woman. He wanted her just to kind of be this homemaker by his side, making him look good in the NAACP world. And she said, no, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to have my career. And she really struggled with the mom guilt of raising their son, of the wife guilt that he put her through, of I can be myself, I can live my life, I can have my own goals. And I think that's something that really spoke to me as a mother and a wife and somebody who is trying to have this page and who also, wants to do the best I can as a teacher, and just so much about this book, but also just really admires this woman who also had a mom who had a relationship with her mom that struggled as well, because her mom was also a very strong woman who had a career but their relationship struggled. And then to see what the things that she did, bringing down Lucky Luciano, one of the big mom bosses of all time, in her career, and then just all of those things coming together to make her, because in history we heroify these people and we see their big accomplishments, but sometimes we lose that they're a person. And I don't want us to lose in these huge accomplishments of these amazing women that they had everyday lives, and they were wives and mothers, but they're so much more than that. They're a person. And I don't want us to lose that and to see her as a person. And I think that these two women and these two authors, they do such a good job of saying, like, all of these books so far have done a great job of saying, yes, these women, they did crazy things, but they loved and they lost and they struggled with guilt and they struggled with who am I and where do I fit in, and all of these things, friendships. And I love that. And that's one of the reasons I love historical fiction, because we don't just see the big moments, we see the everyday lives. And I love this book for that too. I promise this is the last one from Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. But this woman, she comes from my home state of Florida. And this is my favorite book by these two authors together, so I had to bring it up. And she's from my home state of Florida. And one of my favorites to talk about in my classroom, because she's from Florida, and that's Mary McLeod Bethune. I love Eleanor Roosevelt too, and I always talk about her, but Mary McLeod Bethune is one of my favorite women in history to discuss, because her life, just the things she did. She started a school for black girls here in Florida, and if you don't know much about Jim Crow in Florida, they talked about, like, it was so much worse than we think of, even Alabama and Georgia here in Florida. And she was like living in Daytona Beach, and she's like, I'm going to start this school for girls. And then it becomes Bethune-Cookman College, and she founds this college. And then she works in the NAACP, and then she becomes friends with Eleanor Roosevelt. And she's like, you live in this privileged life. Let me show you what the real world is like. And she influences Eleanor Roosevelt so much that Eleanor Roosevelt then influences Franklin Delano Roosevelt and inspires Eleanor Roosevelt to do all of these civil rights. And Mary McLeod Bethune, as she's getting older, she fights for civil rights for so many years and works for higher education and just all of these things. And she's an amazing woman, and just all the things she does. But this also highlights, like, she had terrible taste in men, and men just totally, and not just terrible taste in men, because I don't want it to sound like she was victimized by so many men, and so many men just hurt her, and her relationship with her son, who just like left her with her grandson to go take off, and had just took her money and put it in all these terrible business deals. And oh my goodness, this woman is just, she's just an amazing woman. And so she is just one of my heroes in history, and all the things. She cared so much about educating young people, so much about the plight. She brings lynching, like the problems of lynching all over the South, especially in Florida, to Eleanor Roosevelt, and pushes for change. She works with Franklin Delano Roosevelt to push for more federal jobs for black people, and pushes Franklin Roosevelt to give them jobs, and then works in the federal government as a much older woman. She's truly amazing. This book is amazing. Just go read about this woman's life. It's just mind blowing. It's just mind blowing. And I got nothing left. I could, and I do go on and on about her in my class. I just could. Okay, another woman. She's featured in this book. I want a full book. Somebody please write a full historical fiction book. And if there is a book about her, please tell it to me in the comments, because I have looked and I can't find a full historical fiction book. And if there isn't one, please somebody write it, because I need this to exist and read it. Ida B. Wells Barnett. Ida B. Wells Barnett. Every single person in America needs to study her. But she's featured in The Women's March by Jennifer Chiaverini, I think is how you say her name. I don't know. She did everything. She was a newspaper editor. She fought against lynching. She fought for suffrage. She founded multiple suffrage clubs. And then she went to go be a part of the Women's March for suffrage, and they wouldn't let her in. And so she was like, I'm going to go in anyway. And then like, well, fine, you can go to the back. She's like, nah, I'm going to sneak in anyway. She just, you want to talk about it? She did it. Her husband and her marriage, one of the most modern marriages. He was very supportive. She hyphenates her name, which was unheard of. She gets run out of multiple places because of her outspoken views. She stands up against all kinds of oppression. I literally could teach a whole lesson, multiple lessons on Ida B. Wells Barnett. This book does not do it justice. It's just the only book I can find that features her, because we really, really, really need historical fiction, full book on her. there really needs to be more on her. But this book does do a little bit about her, so I suggest this book. The Women's March, it's a really good, interesting information. There just needs to be more on Ida B. Wells Barnett. There just does. It just does. That's all I'm saying. There just does. Now, if you want a nonfiction that features several of these ladies and many others, and there are both white and black women in this book, but I really love this book. It is We the Women by Nora O'Donnell. I think she's done a phenomenal job of writing about women in this book. It is not a hard read. It is a longer book, but it is a good read about many women in American history that have been overlooked up until now, and they should not have been overlooked. I read it came out this year. I read it, I want to say April, something like that, and I really enjoyed it. And it does give a good background information on a lot of these women. On my TBR, I have several on my TBR right now, but the one that I got my hands on for this video was Carolina Built by Kiana Alexander. I'm really excited. She is an entrepreneur, a real estate mogul, and I cannot wait to read this book. I think it's going to be really good. I've heard very good things about it. I don't know enough about her, but I cannot wait to hear about this woman. I'm always looking for more historical fiction about amazing black women in both American and world history. If you have some, leave it below, because I definitely want to read more. I want to hear about it. If you have a book you suggest, please leave it in the comments down below, so that I can pick it up, because this is something I think I want to hear more about. I'm hoping you guys want to hear more about it. And let me know down below, who is your Black women history hero? You've heard about just a few of mine. There's so many more, but these are just a few of mine. If you can't tell, I get really passionate about this subject, and I really wish there was more books I could feature for you. And maybe there are, I just haven't found them yet. But I want to hear about more. I want to talk about more women. And I'm hoping this is just part one, and I just have so many more to talk about later. But for now, always remember, bring a book.